Good day, everyone. My name is Charles Rather, Managing Partner at AmLaw Group. Today, we've got a really somewhat complicated topic to tackle, so I'd suggest maybe getting something to drink or a little snack because this is going to be a deep dive into what it means if your category is current. And it's kind of a crazy phenomenon, figure of speech maybe in immigration circles, but when we talk about a category being current, what that means is that there's an available visa, that there's availability for issuance of a visa or for adjusting status for that particular category, for that person from that country. And that allows you to then either acquire a visa if you're overseas and going through the consular process, or it allows you to file for adjustment of status. So what does that mean? Let's break it down. Every month, it's called the Visa Bulletin. And if you just Google it, you just type in Visa Bulletin, it'll take you right to the website for the Department of State. And they update this Visa Bulletin every month. And it's usually updated about 7 or 10 days before the following month. So say in August, starting from maybe July 15th, 20th, just before August, they'll send the new bulletin update for August. And that's actually a good thing to keep in mind because if you're not in status, you can always get a sneak preview as to what is going to be the status for the next month. And if things are going to change for the better or for worse for you, then you know you've got maybe a window of 10, 15 days to do something really quickly if you need to file something. So anyway, there's this Visa Bulletin that gets published by the Department of State every month. And that Visa Bulletin says, for all the visa categories, what's current and what's not. So what does that mean? It means basically, let's say, for example, you're applying for an NIW visa. And there's certain quotas, and it's very arcane how they allocate the number of visa slots between countries. And if a country doesn't use them, then they can give them to other residents of different countries. So, but without going into those details, you just look at these charts. And there's two charts on there. And each month, this gets confusing too, each month, State Department will say which of the two charts you use. Again, there's an explanation why and how they're able to use the two charts. So you got to be careful though, because you're going to see two charts for each month, and you might be looking at one chart and thinking, oh, my category is current, I can file right now or apply right now. But in fact, you might be looking at the wrong chart. So the first thing is you got to look at the right month. Then there's always an indication there on the page. For this month, you are to look at chart X or B. They label it final action date, and then I forgot the name of the other one. And so you got to make sure you're looking at the right chart. And then you look at that, and then you got to look what country you're from. Because that can also have an effect. Generally, it depends on the visa, but generally, if you're not from China, India, Mexico, try to think other countries, maybe sometimes the Philippines for family-based stuff, you don't have to worry too much. So you got to check, again, the visa type, see if there's a special category or line item for your country, and then you'll see a month and a year. And what that means is that if you filed at that indicated month or year or earlier, then that means your category is, you're eligible for visa or eligible to adjust status if you're in the U.S. If you filed after the month and year that's indicated in that chart, then that means you're not eligible. You can still apply, but you can't immediately apply for the visa, or you can't immediately file for adjustment of status. So if the category is totally current and there's no wait time or anything, you'll see a C right there. So if you go to NIW for your month in question and you see there's a C, that means it's current. Doesn't matter where you're from, you can file, and as soon as you file, get an approval, you can start the process for adjusting your status here or start the visa processing process. But if there's a date there, then what that means is you have to look at what date your documents were accepted by USCIS. And if you came on or before that date, you're good. But if you filed if you filed after that month and year, then that means you're going to have to wait a while. How long you have to wait really depends. I mean, EB-5 Chinese investors have been waiting for years and years and years. Other categories like maybe NIW, maybe EB-2, EB-3 if you're not Chinese or Indian, those categories tend to progress relatively quickly. So how does this affect you when you're making immigration plans? So let's say you're looking to do an NIW, and if you looked at one of our other videos in our channel here, we talk about premium processing that's now available for NIW. So you say, hey, I'm going to file premium processing. I want to get a response within 45 days and boom, make my move. Okay, you could get an answer within 45 days and hopefully you'll get an approval. But that doesn't mean then you can immediately apply for a green card or start the visa process. Because let's say you file and your filing date is January 1st, 2023. But when you file or when you get your approval, let's say in 45 days, you got your approval, you're good to go. If you go on the visa bulletin chart, it's showing a date of, let's say, June 2022. So that means they're still reviewing applications from June 2022 or earlier. You filed 6 months later. So you can't adjust your status in the US and you can't receive a visa. Even if they might, which they probably won't, I really doubt it, but even if they were to call you in for an interview at the embassy, they still couldn't issue the visa. Generally, they're only going to start calling people in for visas when they've already caught up. That date is already current with the visa bulletin, and so they're already accepting and issuing visas for people who filed in January 2023 or later, based on my example. So this can be a bit of an issue in that people don't understand. You can get an approval, especially people doing adjustment of status here in the US. You can get the approval, but once you get the approval, that doesn't allow you to file your 485 and adjustment of status papers. You're going to have to wait until that line catches up to your date. And in some categories, lately we've seen a big backlog with NIWs and EB2s and EB3s. So, you might have to wait 6 or 9 months. Now clients say, well, what do I do? I want to stay in the US. I don't want to leave the US. Well, we have to kind of work to try to find some other option that would allow you to stay here until the filing date became current with the date when you filed. You could look at maybe a student status, a student visa. There could be other options. You really need to speak to an attorney to see what possibilities exist for you. But this is an important thing to keep in mind. And especially, I would say in general, this issue comes up a lot starting maybe from the summer until October 1st. Because as you might know, the fiscal year for the US government starts on October 1st. And that's when they update all the new visa quotas and prepare all the new visas, make available all the new visas for the next upcoming year. So by the time summer comes around or early fall, just before October 1st, they're running out of visas, right? And they maybe ran out of visas a long time ago for your particular category. So you'll tend to see what we call the categories regressing, that they're going to start showing earlier and earlier dates, right? Instead of getting closer and closer, it's just going to go in the opposite direction a little bit. And then starting on October 1st, boom, you can see people will catch up all of a sudden. You can see maybe there was a line of 6 months, and boom, starting on October 1st, that line is gone or nearly gone, because again, they're releasing all the new visa quotas for the next upcoming year. And again, depending on the category and how big of a line there is, when they release those new visas, that could totally wipe out the waiting line or certainly decrease it by a significant amount. So that's why when you're looking at your immigrant options with your attorney, you need to look at not only, how quickly can I file and using premium processing, get an approval in 15 or 45 days, but you also have to see whether that category is current. And if it's not current, then no matter how fast you get your approval, you could get it in 1 week. You're still going to end up waiting some time before you can actually start the consular process if you're overseas or adjust your status here in the US. Again, this was Charles Rather. Place, any questions, put any questions you have in the comments, but better yet, reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you on this or any other questions.